Just when I thought talk of Florida State jumping to the Big Ten was quieting down, this little nugget grabbed my attention. I will share that with you next here on Locked On Big Ten.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com and get started. So Florida State is seeking AAU accreditation. Does that mean the Big Ten is next? Plus, we're going to talk some Illinois football quarterbacks. They might have one of the, if not the best quarterback in the Big Ten. Hear me out on that one. And we have our top 10 observations over the weekend. It'll involve the 129 Big Ten athletes in Paris, France in the Olympics. But first, the Florida State Seminoles are working toward AAU accreditation, which would signal that they are padding their resume for a future invite into the Big Ten. Before we continue forward, let's take a step backward for just a minute here. For all the Big Ten expansion talk, and we do plenty right here on Locked On Big Ten, we spend most of our time talking about Florida State joining the Big Ten someday. And as you know, they are currently embroiled in a lawsuit against the ACC because they want to get out of a conference that is woefully underpaying them for their media rights and will continue to do so for the next 12 years, while conferences like the Big Ten and the SEC will pay their schools hundreds of millions of dollars more over the same period. It seems like the SEC is cool on the idea of bringing another Florida school into the fold. Same goes with Clemson and the state of South Carolina. So the Big Ten has always seemed like a good fit to me. Then there was the chatter the past couple of weeks that maybe both the Big Ten and the SEC were both kind of cooling on Florida State. And that's when you started hearing Big 12 chatter, right? I mean, Florida State wants to get out of this lawsuit. They need somewhere to go. You also remember the Big 12 commissioner, Brett Yormark. He said, we're open for business. Everybody thought that meant, hey, come on over here, Florida State, Clemson, go to the Big 12, and people were running with it all over the internet. He may have been dreaming about Florida State and Clemson, but in reality, he may be blowing a dog whistle to other ACC schools that they should consider the Big 12 once the ACC blows up, and it will blow up. I've argued here that since the Big 12 lost Texas and Oklahoma, they're no better off than the ACC, really. They're just a little behind schedule, but they're going down the same path. They don't pay their schools that much more than the ACC does when it comes to media rights. Again, they'll be the next conference to implode once we take care of the ACC, in my opinion. And we will eventually come down to the two superpowers, the Big Ten and the SEC, no matter how big they get. Those will be the only two big ones that matter. If you follow this podcast every day, and by the way, thank you, everydayers, you know that this is our theory moving forward. If you're new, thanks for joining us. This is what we talk about. So I said it here 2 weeks ago. Why would Florida State spend all of their resources in court trying to get out of the ACC and just jump to another mediocre conference, financially speaking, with the Big 12? The only reason we could come up with was that maybe the Big Ten was not as big on extending Florida State an invitation, maybe due to their lack of AAU accreditation. That seemed to be the big reason. In fact, we pointed out last week, the Big Ten Commissioner, Tony Petitti, mentioned the importance of academics 3 times in his annual State of the Big Ten address during Big Ten Media Days. It is duly noted that every Big Ten school except Nebraska is AAU accredited, and is believed by many that a stamp from the AAU is a prerequisite to joining the Big Ten in the future with expansion and realignment. If that is so, that would be a big problem for Florida State. Now, what is AAU? Just in case you're not with us every day or you don't follow these things closely off the football field. It is the Association of American Universities, They are invited to join that group, about 70 of them, based on the quality of their institutional research. If you're not in it, doesn't mean you're a bad school academically, but if you are in it, it is something that the Big Ten seems to like. Now, suddenly, let's fast forward. James Clark. Who is James Clark? Well, he's a provost and executive vice president at Florida State. And he just happened to be talking to a bunch of high-profile alumni at the Biltmore Mansion in Asheville, North Carolina. I've been there. It's nice. It's really not important here. But anyway, he happened to mention that Florida State is indeed working on AAU accreditation. The school plans to be certified by 2026. And they have plans to spend hundreds of millions of dollars in research expenses. That's how all this AAU thing works. It is believed by me that the number one reason the Florida State would get its academic ducks in a row would be so that they could join the Big Ten. Now, sure, AAU accreditation is prestigious on its own as a university, academia, all that stuff. But it's not as profitable as being a member of the Big Ten. Profitable is the key word there. So let's map this out for just a minute. Let's have a little bit of fun with this. Now, we all know that the ACC's deadline for teams to commit to next season in the 2025 football season is August 15th. That is coming up in a little more than 2 weeks. It seems unlikely from where we're sitting here now that unless there's some sort of rapid settlement in all the lawsuits that are going on just out of the blue, and of course, there are counter lawsuits too. Unless any of that's resolved in the next 2 weeks, nothing's going to happen before we get to the deadline. And then in 2025, everybody's going to stay put for that matter. So we'll iron all this out. And it looks like status quo going into 2025, unless there's like an earthquake in the next 2 weeks. But maybe in time for the 2026 season, along with Florida State's possible new AAU accreditation by 2026, we could see some further realignment and expansion by the Big Ten then. All right? So that's something to keep an eye on for the two deadlines. Short term, the next 2 weeks before August 15th. And then once we get past that date, start looking ahead to 2026, whether Florida State gets accredited and whether the rumors get heated back up that the Big Ten is then interested at that point. Now, we always like to have a little bit of fun on this podcast, so we're going to do it right here. I'm just going to throw this out there for fun. We'll chew on it for a little while. We have plenty of time. Time is on our side. All right. I was looking ahead to Florida State's 2026 non-conference football schedule. You know, these games are scheduled years and sometimes decades in advance. They got an interesting slate of non-conference games in 2026. First of all, they got a huge game at Alabama. Yeah. Florida State, Alabama, that'll be awesome. They also have a huge home date against Notre Dame. Notre Dame. Hypothetically, I'm just spitballing right here. Wouldn't it be interesting? Wouldn't it be interesting if both Florida State and Notre Dame both kick off the 2026 season as members of the Big Ten? Boom. I said it. There. Throw it out there. That's going to get a lot of comments in the comment section here on YouTube for sure. Anyway, hey, be sure to go ahead and comment on YouTube or follow us and comment on Twitter at X at Talk Big Ten number 10. Always look forward to that. Also, don't forget to hit us up on our website, talkbig10 number 10.com. We'll talk more about that in a moment. If you are new to us, you're just checking us out, be sure to subscribe. And we're in the same loop all the time with the Big Ten. We took this channel over about a year ago with 1,200 subscribers. We've blown past 9,500. Our goal is to get to 10,000 subscribers. That's you guys between now and the start of football season. I know we can do it. If you can just click, it's free. There's no other information required. Nothing. It's just that easy. And then you're in the Big Ten loop every day. You get this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. The audio-only versions come out at 4 a.m. Eastern every day, and the video on the YouTube comes out at 6 a.m. every single day, right there for you, ready to go as a subscriber. And tell your friends about us. I know you have some Big Ten alum out there that you know. Tell them about us, that we are right here. Meanwhile, back to the website. If you're a fan of any of the Big Ten teams or even the Fighting Illini, who we're going to talk about next, you can get your Illinois gear just ahead of the season. Shirts, hats, pennants, everything right there. Talk Big Ten, number 10.com. That is our website. And all of our podcasts go there too, chronologically. And then we group them by teams. We're going to talk a lot about Illinois here. This will appear on the Illinois section as well. It's very easy. Talk Big Ten, number 10.com. Be sure and check that out. We always would appreciate it. All right. We'll talk about the Fighting Illini and how they may have one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten, believe it or not. Yeah, we're talking about Luke Altmaier. I'll explain all that next right here on Locked On Big Ten. Ibotta. We've talked about this before. This is a great deal because you buy a lot of stuff. Summertime, you buy stuff. Sunscreen, sandals, snacks for the kids. Always on the go in the summertime. Spending all sorts of money on everything. Use Ibotta and get cash back on all of your purchases when you stock up on all your summer essentials. Even the vacation, the dream summer vacation. Ibotta is a free app, and it lets you earn cash back every time you shop. You can earn earn on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies, toys, trips. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. In fact, did you know the average Ibotta user earns $256 per year? That'll pay for a lot of the stuff that we just talked about right there. So check it out right now. Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying it out. Try Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Ibotta. Ibotta is IBOTTA. Okay. And get it Google Play or the App Store, and then use the code LOCKEDONCollege for Ibotta. Also, want to tell you about meals. Now, I was having this discussion just today with my wife. What do you want to eat for dinner tonight? I don't know. We don't feel like cooking. We don't really have anything laying around. Tired of the same old fast food. I need to tell you about this. This is fantastic when you can get yourself some calorie smart meals, protein plus, keto, all this kind of stuff that you could get that will help you out. It's Factor Meals. Factor Meals. Treat yourself to restaurant quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, blackened salmon. Keep the kitchen time to a minimum. A lot of their meals, they're ready in 2 minutes. Good, high quality stuff there. So here's what you need to do. Head on over to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50. LockedOnCollege50, and use that code LockedOnCollege50, the number 50, and get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Again, that is Factor Meals. Want to thank you all for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. Thank you, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget to check out our website for your favorite Illinois or school merchandise. I'll tell you more about Illinois in just a moment. Right there, talkbig10, number 10.com. All right. We're motoring through here. The season's coming. You know, we kind of focus on a team every day, previews for the season, if you will. And as we look at the landscape, I think there's a chance that Brett Bielema and the Fighting Illini may have one of the better quarterbacks in the conference. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking about Luke Altmaier, believe it or not. Now, is Luke Altmaier the greatest thing since Tom Brady? No, far from it. But he is good. And I think as good as the rest of the Big Ten is going to be this season, the Big Ten, first of all, let me just say this. I think this is going to be the greatest Big Ten season of all time. But I think there are a lot of question marks with almost every team in the conference this year. Great year for the conference, great year for football, great year for all these teams, down year for quarterbacks. All right. I think here's a quick thumbnail. If you don't look, it's no secret. I'm not that big on Will Howard at Ohio State because he's only a 59% career passer. That's 4 years worth. The stats don't change. We haven't seen Alex Orji at Michigan throw the ball that much. Dylan Gabriel seems to be promising at Oregon. A lot of upside, but we really haven't seen him do much yet. There's Drew Aller. We saw him last year. He was fine. Had a great touchdown to interception ratio, 25-2, but he needs to take a step up. Miller Moss, great bowl game. He's played one game at USC. Not a lot of guys jumping out at the quarterback position in the Big Ten. So let's get back to Luke Altmaier at Illinois for a minute. Played 9 games last year. There was an injury involved. Didn't play the whole season. But I liked what I saw with the eyeball test when I watched him play Illinois football when Illinois football played last year. He was just a sophomore, and he threw 13 touchdowns and almost 1,900 yards. Again, modest. Those aren't record-breaking numbers by any means. But I like his poise, particularly leading Illinois to 2 last-second game-winning drives in the season last year. He's unflappable. Again, in a down year for Big Ten quarterbacks, don't overlook a very underrated guy like Luke Altmaier with another year of experience under his belt. That may go a long way in 2024 for Brett Bielema in Illinois. Bielema and Illinois, they had a good 2022. They had 8 wins. And then they followed that up with a disappointing 5-7 last year. A lot of close games. Going down to the wire. Win or lose. And by the way, speaking of Bielema, he grabbed my attention during Big Ten Media Days. He was the first coach of the 18 to speak. Came out there on fire. Just all kinds of enthusiasm. He was talking about everything that college football coaches have to do. They got to recruit high school kids. Then they got to keep them in the fold so nobody else steals them. Then they got to re-recruit their own kids and make sure they don't leave through the portal. Then they got to go find kids from the portal. And, it just goes on and on. There's name, image, and likeness they got to deal with. It's nonstop. And then, by the way, practice, spring football, fall football, play the games, coach the games. A lot of coaches are burning out. A lot of coaches, they don't want to do all this. They just want to coach ball. But instead of sounding burnt out from all that, he said he loves it all. He's all on board. He's all about it. Let's go. I found that refreshing. He sounds refreshed and ready to go. He also said that he's excited to have 17 kids on the roster that have started at least 10 games in their careers. So he likes the experience he has. Now, they got to replace some people. There's no question. He's been becoming a bit of a defensive pipeline for the NFL. And they won't have Jerzon Newton on the defense this year for the same reason, NFL. But their front 7 is still pretty impressive this year. They might be, I'm probably going to be the best unit on this football team. 5 veterans returning that front 7. And they added Florida State defensive lineman Dennis Briggs Jr. out of the portal. The returning linebacker Seth Coleman, he's a legitimate NFL talent, decided to come back for another year. So that leads us back to the offense. 4 of Altmaier's top 5 receivers are gone, and their leading rusher, Reggie Love III, is gone. Certainly, there is a lot of work to do on this Illinois offense. But again, if Altmaier can raise his game a little bit, get a little help, rely on some defense, maybe Illinois starts chipping away and winning some of those close football games that they have. So let's take a look at their schedule here, and let's see if we can come up with a win total. Their season opener, 9 p.m. on Thursday. They got that Thursday night opener on August 29th against Eastern Illinois. And look, they should win that game. 1-0. I think a very pivotal game early on, week 2. They got Kansas. This was a home and home. They played there last year. They're playing at home against Kansas this year. That's a 7 o'clock FS1 game. Very pivotal. Let's say they win that one. Let's give them the win. That's 2 wins. Then they got Central Michigan, week 3. That's a noon game on Peacock. That's 3 wins. And I hope for Illinois' sake, they get those wins because 4 of their next 5 games are as brutal as it gets in the Big Ten. They're at Nebraska. They're at Penn State. They're home to Purdue. Ryan Walters, former defensive coordinator for Brett Bielema, head coach of Purdue, going to want a little homecoming win. I don't think he's going to get. I think Illinois can win that game. But then Michigan, October 19th. I believe this is the 100th anniversary of the Illinois-Michigan series. Probably not going to win that one. That's going to be a tough game, although it is at home. And then on the road at Oregon. So 4 of those 5, pretty tough. If they don't get any, I mean, the win to Purdue game, all right, that's 4 wins if they get Purdue and Kansas, okay? Then the schedule lightens up a little bit. They've got Minnesota. That's a winnable game. They can win. That's 5. Michigan State is a winnable game, although it'll probably go down on the wire. That's 6. And then at Rutgers and at Northwestern to end the season, I say they split those. I don't know which one. That Rutgers game is going to be tough. I think they beat Northwestern. That's what I think. So, well, we're at 6, 7 wins. If you don't get Kansas, you're down to 6. 6 wins. 6 wins seems to be it, right? And again, that Kansas game is pivotal to start the season. So that's how I see it. Right there. Not much of an improvement record-wise from last year, but that's where we're at. And this is where we're going to be at every year with this tough Big Ten schedule. There's no question. Hey, by the way, do you watch some daytime sports TV like Fox Sports, FS1, ESPN? Getting a little tired of it? Tired of the old format of arguing and talking back and forth? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming and yelling. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, you know that we like to do on Mondays our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Obviously, not a lot of Big Ten sports going on right now, but we do have Olympics and a surprising number of Big Ten athletes in the Olympics. That's next right here on Locked On Big Ten. I'll tell you about FanDuel, our favorites, right? Always making sports more fun. Baseball's going on in full swing here. The Olympics going on, but FanDuel gets you extra involved in all of these. All you have to do is open the app, dream up bets anytime that you're in the mood, and they're right there for you. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. I got a few you could sprinkle around here on a Monday. Now, a lot of even matchups here tonight, Monday night in Major League Baseball. So let's do some bargain hunting here. Let's parlay the Royals over the Red Sox, but parlay it with the over 8.5 runs. I also like to take the over on the Nationals and the Diamondbacks at 9.5. All right. Again, FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, I want to put on the screen. If you're audio only, I will describe this in detail. We're going to put it up on the screen. Our Big Ten, top 10 observations from the weekend, and a lot of stuff here, all involving the Olympics. All right, I'm going to put it on full screen and take a look here. And let's see here. All right, so first on the board, I've got number 10. I got UCLA, Drew Holiday. In fact, I'm going to group a few of these here together. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put a few more up here. Let's see. Number 9, Maryland, Alyssa Thomas. These are all USA basketball players with Big Ten ties. Drew Holiday at UCLA. Alyssa Thomas played at Maryland. Sabrina Ionescu, who is in Oregon, who used to be at Oregon. And Rutgers, Kaylee Cooper for the women's basketball team. And then Kelsey Plum, of course, the great scorer from Washington. They're just getting started with the basketball, men's and women's basketball with the Olympics. But these are ones to keep an eye on and have some fun with and root for. Meanwhile, here's some more that already took place over the weekend. From Ohio State, Ferris Arfa came in 8th in the Sabre event. Indiana's Rafael Miroslav was 7th for the German men's 4x100 free relay. Also, Minnesota's Sarah Bacon got the silver in synchronized diving. I saw that when that happened on Saturday. Congratulations to her out of Minnesota. Michigan's Maggie McNeil was 4th for Team Canada in the women's swimming 4x100. And Ohio State's Hunter Armstrong, gold in the men's 4x100 swimming relay. That was exciting. That was domination. And I thought that was the number one coolest thing I saw throughout the entire weekend. So congratulations to all of these athletes. There are 129 Big Ten athletes in the Olympics in Paris, France right now. So we thought we'd give them all a shout out. Go USA, and good luck to all of them. So I hope you check some of that out. All right. What a wonderful way to start the week. A lot of big stuff going on. We're counting down. The teams are in practice now. Most of them checked in and signed in on Sunday, and we're rolling. It's practice. It's football season. Counting down the days to all the games, and there are many ways for you to interact with us here. First of all, at Twitter or X, Talk Big 10, number 10. Don't forget our website, talkbig10, the number 10.com. And also comments on YouTube are always welcome. We always appreciate that. Be sure to subscribe, or even better yet, tell a friend of yours or a family member that's a Big Ten alum or fan that we're out here every day, and have them subscribe. So we're all doing this together going into the season and our push to 10,000 subscriptions. Subscribe. It's free. There's no other information required. And you can follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Also, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's Locked On Sports Today. It's here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with our local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. That's what I can't wait till we meet again tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining us. Always appreciate it. Never take it for granted. Tell your friends about us. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten. Talk to you next time.